know if I know the definition of barricade, because it kind of felt like it was just there.
Was
and
it
wasn't
on metal
easy to
rods
read.
in the grass?
It's on there.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Technical term.
There we go.
Oh, boy.
This might be
Let's
closer.
do
Oh,
that.
no.
Let's do
Sorry. You gotta be part of this, sorry. Or am I don't know what I'm doing. Plugging it in. Oh.
Oh, there you go. I just-
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry to cut
How are you doing, Erin?
microphone.
There you go.
Okay, it is
That's a lot of
5:30. I will call this work session to order. First tonight, we have Dr. Erin Rathke joining us, Superintendent. Move around and just introduce ourselves. Courtney Johnson, Mayor.
I'm Christy Mock, City Council Member. Nice to see you.
Kelly Hick, I'm the Chief of Staff and Executive Director of Communications.
I am Lori Sayer, one of the council members. I have a senior at Chaska High School, and I have a graduate from a little over 2 years ago. So,
Alright.
and my husband graduated from Chaska, so
All right, nice to meet you.
ingrained in the district.
All right, I love that.
Eric Hirschman, I'm also a council member, and this is the first year I've not had a child, and one child in 16 years.
So no first day of school for you?
First day at University Wisconsin Stout,
Okay.
but no, that's it.
Did you
Yep.
get a picture?
I told her just to take a picture for me.
Brent Mareck, City Manager.
Hi, I'm Erin Smith, Community Development Director.
Aaron Schmidt, City Engineer.
Hi, I'm Brenda Good, Administrative Services Coordinator.
Lynn, Tschudi, Finance Director.
Reed Welch, City Council Member.
Nice to meet all of you. Erin is the name, huh?
It is,
All
yeah.
right, all
Relax.
right.
Yeah.
I'm in good company.
Erin Smith, I noticed you really enunciated when you sit next to Erin.
Yeah,
Erin
we
Smith
have to,
and
it
Erin
gets
Schmidt.
really confusing.
All right, well, I know you came with a presentation. I also know you came prepared for 2 truths and a lie, whatever you want to do first.
Okay, I'll do my 2 truths and a
Okay,
lie.
fantastic.
Okay, all right, so I have 3 things. So one is my husband and I, no, Brent, you don't get to guess, okay?
Oh.
Brent, all right, Brent can't guess. I was sitting, I'm like, Brent's gonna know these.
Okay.
Okay, my husband and I are both only children. 2 is I have an only child. And 3, I have 3 large Rottweilers named Justice, Arizona, and Rain.
These ones are so specific.
Okay, so what we're doing is we're holding up our fingers.
Oh,
for the lie.
It's the lie, okay.
So, lots of people with 2. I don't think you have Rottweilers. Do you want to try to guess, or do you think you know the truth, the lie?
The middle one, the 2, you have 2 kids, don't
I
you?
do have.
Okay.
There you go.
You cannot walk them all at once.
I can't walk them all at once. I walk 2 in 1.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you. I like doing that because I think it gives us just a different way of getting to know you and your personality. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
I love it.
Great.
Okay.
Go ahead. You have the floor.
All right, Brent, are you gonna click my PowerPoint?
Yep.
All
I
right, great.
gotcha.
Well, thank you for having me, Mary Johnson. I've just loved our partnership, and thank you for coming to Carver and serving lunch and greeting and having fun. So I can't wait to do something again with you this year. Members of the council, it's nice to meet you. My name is Dr. Erin Rathke, and I have been in the district for 4 years. I started out as the assistant superintendent and was the interim superintendent for a handful of months, and now the permanent superintendent. So today is my first day of school as the superintendent, so it's been really an exciting day. I got my new school outfit on, ready to go. It's always the first day of school, no matter what position you're in, and so it's always an exciting day. Previously, I was a principal, an assistant principal, instructional coach, a school improvement specialist, and I was a teacher, and I've still been a teacher longer than I've been an administrator, and so I'm proud of that. I didn't hurry out of the classroom because I loved teaching and loved being with kids, and you know, when you're far from the classroom, you have to just remember that that's what we center ourselves around is our students, no matter how far you are from classrooms. So I had a great day today, just going out. I got to 6 of our elementary schools. We served lunch, and we always, all of our cabinet team went out and served lunch. Kindergartners have a hard time opening up their milk cartons and picking, you know, fruit and vegetable, and do you want the baked beans or not? I was really upset about the baked beans. They're very messy cleaning up, but we were hoping for pizza because that can just go in the trash really easy, but baked beans today. So I am really excited about the next 100 days, and even though I've been in the district for the last 4 years, I still really want to come into this position with the opportunity to really engage and listen to our communities, to our students, to our parents, to our district staff. I've got some time scheduled to listen to teachers and staff members, and so I think it's just an opportunity to hear what's going really well and what are our opportunities that we're coming into. So I'm going to share my 4 questions that I've already started but want to share with you and hope that you'll find some time to come out and engage with us. But I keep grounding us back in our strategic plan, because what I do feel like I've heard is that people want to make sure that we stay grounded in the work that we've done over the last 4 years. And the reason this strategic plan is so important in this roadmap is this is the voice of our community. We engaged so many people. We did surveys, we listened to staff, we listened to community members, we talked to students, we went back out and talked to students. And this roadmap, in partnership with our school board, is still going to be the roadmap to how we make decisions. And so it's really wonderful to come in and know that there's already a groundwork laid in front of us. And so there's lots that can be done, but this is completed in a way in which we can use to guide the ways in which we make decisions. And so we've been grounding all of our staff members this year really in our core values around being student-centered, excellence, respect, collaboration, and accountability. And we've been talking about what that will look like. So over the next handful of months in the year, you'll be hearing us. If you watch us on 112 online or 112 seconds or any kind of social media, you'll start seeing how these core values come alive inside of our classrooms. And so we want to make sure that we're really elevating our core values. I did talk a lot in the community and through my interview process, just some guiding values that I have. I think the superintendent should be the lead instructional leader. That is the service we provide in our district, is instruction. I feel like I'm a really strong data-driven leader. Our leaders around me are as well. A leader that is equity-minded, thinking about each and every one of our students. They deserve to have access to what our service is, which is instruction, the ability to read. I believe that literacy is justice, and so wanting to continue to promote that through our organization, and then just collaborative teamwork. I have just an awesome leadership team, and that is part of the reason I wanted to be in Eastern Carver County Schools, is I wanted to lead with that group of people. And so those are my guiding values. And so I want to just share my 4 questions. Oh, I'm sorry. This is my you can go back. There you go. This is kind of the process I've been talking about, is the next 100 days, and everyone keeps asking me when your 100 days starts. You know, it isn't really July 1st because nobody's really around a lot in July, even though a lot happens in the district in July. But now starts kind of that 100 days, and so in November, I plan to bring a report to the school board around the themes that I've learned from our community and from our students and from our staff. But right now I'm just in the listening and learning phase. I plan to share out, and then I'll work with our collaborative partners on how we're going to build that together and then lead through those themes and those opportunities that we have in front of us. So Brent, if you want to change. So these are my 4 questions. So what is great about our schools and our school district? That has been really fun already. Listening, just love hearing what people love about our school district. I think that's one of the things that makes Eastern Carver County Schools just really special, is people really love our schools. They love their teachers, they love their staff, they love their principal, and I just get the opportunity to hear what people are really proud of. I've been asking people, what's on your wish list? Because I think we need to think about what is that thing that's exciting that we want to build in our organization and in our community that we can get excited about. Just probably like all of you, thinking about how to really be fiscally responsible, how we're going to balance our budget. And so what do we want to prioritize as our budget remains a challenge? And then what are 3 opportunities that we have? And so this has already yielded some really exciting information and some themes that I'm excited to report out. So these are my 4 questions through my 100 days. And then the next slide is just going to share, here are some opportunities for you to engage. And so please share, please come and give your feedback. And so I'm going to do 2 specific language supported community events so that our families can come and that there's clear access for everyone to make sure that they can give us feedback. So we are going to have a Somali language community session and a Spanish language community session. I'm so grateful our equity team is going to support us. Our cultural liaisons are gonna support us to make sure that we can support our community, but we have 2 full community events, October 1st in Bluff Creek and October 26th at Victoria Elementary. And there will be a survey also, so if people can attend the community session, that there will be an opportunity to give some feedback in writing as well.
So if you're doing the small and the Spanish, I'm assuming those are probably your highest, right?
Correct.
What would be third then? Is there another group that's kind of coming up?
Not in a, do you know, Kaylee, you probably do.
There's not really a majority third. We've got a fairly high number of Hmong speakers, and then Russian, Ukrainian is kind of a growing one within the community.
Okay, thanks.
We certainly have ways to support all families if needed. We have translation devices, and so certainly if someone came and needed a different language support at the community events, we'll make sure we'll try to give them access as best we can.
Thanks.
Yes, good question. So that's all I have. I just wanted to be quick and brief, but if there's any questions that I can answer, I'd love to.
Any questions for Dr. Rathke?
I know this isn't 112 anymore, but do you know there were plans for the former East Union School? Have you any knowledge of what's going on there?
Yeah, we sold that building, and so that is no longer our
Right.
property. So Southwest Metro owns that property now.
So my understanding is there was a program that was going to start there, but you have no knowledge of what that looks like yet.
I
think it was an
believe Southwest
alternative
Metro
school.
has a.
They had talked about a center-based level 4 setting for elementary programs, but I don't know if where
That's
they're
okay.
at.
I just thought you may have some awareness. How about financial health? You know, I think one of the things that community members think about and maybe worry about is the next school referendum. And so you said budgets are challenging. Are there any large projects or initiatives on the horizon that you think will impact the community this year or next year that you see coming?
So I do think the school board has a lot of big decisions ahead of them around a referendum and what they want to do. That is going to be critical. You know, there was a lot of conversation about how there was an influx of money to districts by the state, and that certainly was true, and we're grateful for the opportunity and the money that we did receive, but it did not keep up with the mandates that the legislation have put forward at the schools. And so, like anything, we have not matched inflation, we have not matched funding, and so excellence does land on our local taxpayers, and we understand that, want to be thoughtful and considerate about that. But the board does have some decisions ahead of them around a referendum and what that looks like for our communities.
Is that a 25 referendum or 26 referendum, do you know?
So they have a big decision ahead.
Okay.
It's not my decision, that is the school board's decision. And so I do think there'll be some conversation about what's in front of us right now. We have a referendum that's coming up that is, can be renewed, and it is our 829 referendum, and so they have an opportunity to renew that. That was new in the legislature last year, where we don't have to go out for a vote. And we know that even if that 829 was auto-renewed, that will not be enough to sustain our budget. We know that there is a potential for needing more from the taxpayers, so.
And then one final curiosity
Yes.
question. For other languages, you mentioned devices and not translators.
Mm-hmm.
So does the school maintain translators, or are you relying more on technology? How does that work?
Sure. Well, I'm gonna actually pass that to Kaylee.
My department.
That is her department.
So we don't have a demographic that's large enough to support having we have on the equity team there's some intercultural specialists who do amazing work, and we'll pinch hit sometimes. But for the most part, we use Language Line, which is great. They do virtual interpretation in real time. We have Talking Points, which is an awesome app that we use for two-way communication with families, where a classroom teacher can text a message to her class, and it immediately goes out in whatever the home language is. So it's not just Spanish and Somali, which is what we support at the district level, but if somebody's at home and speaks Italian, they're going to get the message in Italian. And then they can reply back in Italian, and it's translated back into English. So we are finding lots of technological ways to address that gap and increase family engagement. But we are not, at MPS, for example, they have a whole department that's just translators. Our demographics are not such that we can support that. So.
All right.
It's a great question, though.
So Eric, you asked about the state, and you
replied that the state mandates that we're not able to keep up. So are there any big ones that the state put in? I don't have kids in the
Sure.
district, so I'm not aware of which ones those might be,
That's a
that
great
we're not
question.
able to fund.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple things. Well, one I would like to highlight that I think is really wonderful and we're all excited about it is the READ Act. And so if you've heard a lot from the legislator, it is requiring all of our this year and will be over the course of a handful of years as every K-3 teacher has to be trained in the science of reading. So the ways in which we all learned reading is not really what's best for kids right now. And so the science of reading, and so every single one of our teachers needs to be trained. So that is a huge lift around professional development. There's some obligations on reading specialists that we need to have, literacy coaches that we need to have. Then it will go to K-5, then it will go to K-12. And so that training in itself, we got some money, but it is certainly not enough money to keep up with what the expectation is from the state. That's just one. There's earned, safe, and sick time. That came. Paid unemployment. There was tons of mandates that came out from the legislature this last year that have a huge financial impact on the district. Those are just to name a few. I mean, there's small ones and big ones. And there's been cross subsidy for, forever and a day. And education has never been funded at the rate of inflation that has been needed.
Any other questions?
I do. I have two questions.
Sure.
Transportation.
Okay.
So, any update on what I understand, and I probably could have asked ahead of time too with Brent, but as far as a facility,
The
in Carver.
transportation center. Yes. So we are working on assessing the land right now and making a decision how we're going to move forward. And I know that the city council has been very supportive, so we really appreciate that. So we're still assessing where we're at with that and where we need to go to get building and get moving on that land.
Okay. Any time frame? Or
I don't
it
have a
would just be
specific.
such a guess.
Yes, I don't want to guess and be on the
Understand.
air and say something that's
Yeah.
But we know that the city is wondering where we're at. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, my other question is the change in venue for and the date for the graduation.
Yes.
Is, other than, I mean, there's been communication about it, but is there possibility of it changing again? Or are we gonna see something different every year? Is there?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, so we did shift from Grace Church, where it has been for a very long time. And unfortunately, we were going to be at the Target Center, which was, I think, going to be awesome. And the Timberwolves were amazing.
Yeah.
And so at the very last minute,
Yeah.
as the interim
Yeah.
superintendent, I had to
Mhm.
pinch hit on where
Right.
we should have graduation.
But not the past, the upcoming.
Yep, so that's what happened previously, and I just want to, and it'll help me tell the rest of the
Okay.
story. So I think one thing is that our facilities just can't hold the amount of people that need to come to graduation. And so one of the high values from our community that I feel like I've heard loud and clear is people who want to have limited tickets. And so they want to bring grandma, aunts, uncles, everybody that wants to come. And so 10 and 12 tickets means 4,000 people sometimes at events. There are not a lot of places around our space that are able to accommodate that amount of people. So we ended up going back to Grace because the Timberwolves kicked us out.
Yeah.
And then lost. I just want you to know I was very upset about that. And so now that brought us back to this year and having to find a space. So we are going to be at Mariucci. And we picked Mariucci because we know we will not be kicked out because I am really thinking the Wolves are going to be good again this year. So I did not want to go back to the Target Center. And so grateful for other organizations, US Bank Stadium tried to support us and all kinds of things, but really believe that Mariucci will be, it's pretty common for high schools to go there. And so we were able to pick a date that we felt like would accommodate our calendar. I think most high schools traditionally do the seniors get out a little bit early, and so we're gonna be able to provide that for our seniors, so I think they're gonna be really pleased about that. Wanted it to not be on a Saturday or after the end of the year.
Okay.
And so, will it stay at Mariucci? I believe that we will stay there for a handful of years. I do believe that there could be the potential of another space that is being built in our area, but we have to see if that happens or not. So right now, the plan would be to stay at Mariucci and hold that date.
Yep.
over many years, hopefully, so that people can predict it. I think people want to be able to predict what's going to happen.
Yeah,
So what we were able to do is communicate early. People know the date, the time, and the location, and there's lots of details that need to be figured out, and we will work on that, but we wanted to do that in partnership with people, and so starting school was part of why we wanted to wait, so we could do it with partnership with everybody, but really wanted to get out the date, time, and the location out to families, because then they can start planning.
Right.
It's a good question, and it's been really,
It's probably,
it's
it
been
does need a long
challenging.
answer.
It does need a long answer, I know, it's so hard to break tradition, but really want to be inclusive to all families and to all students, and feel like a more secular location would be more supportive of that.
Thank you for answering.
Yes, thank you, thanks for asking me.
Thank you for coming out.
Yes,
You guys should know, Kaylee and Erin are no stranger to us at the city of Carver. When I give my updates and I talk about the community leaders meetings, that's a meeting that the school district convenes, and we meet every other month. Is that it?
During the school year, yep.
So we see each other quite frequently, and I know that Brent and Erin and city staff work very, very closely with the city, but appreciate you coming out.
Yes, thank you for
Meetings,
inviting me.
Especially
Nice to
all of
see
you
you.
today.
Nice to see you.
Have a good one. All right, city managers report.
I have one piece that I wanted to share. This is kind of a throwback to a work session where Erin Schmidt went over the infrastructure plan. And one of the things that as we were kind of updating the documents with Northland, we realized kind of a missing piece or link related to a sanitary sewer extension. For a number of years, we've talked about bringing a sanitary sewer line underneath 212 at a cost of around $2 million. As we were kind of working through that, we realized that although we got it across, we didn't really bring it anywhere. And initially, we thought we could bring it on the south side of the property. Hartman is just to the west of Mills Fleet Farm, and then it's Geshtock. And Erin, jump in if I'm getting this wrong, but there's just not enough depth for a sanitary sewer line. So we really are pretty much forced to bring it up to the right of way for Levi Griffin Road. And it's really not a development fee that we could make the Hartmans or the future Hartman development, whatever that is, say, okay, you gotta bring this trunk line that serves the whole area up the east side of your property. And so what we're proposing is add that as a trunk project, similar to the southwest area, that be something that's spread across because it benefits the entire area. And so we were, before you'll see this again in your long-term financial plan, because right now you've only seen pieces of it. And so you have a chance to move things around, approve it. But we wanted to show you this as a kind of a bigger piece that has changed since Erin last presented that topic. Erin, did I miss anything?
No, you said that all right, Brent.
When you say it's not deep enough, help me out.
So basically the topography drops off as you go west, so you run out of cover on the pipe. You're not able to bury it in the ground. It'll be coming out of the ground just with the grade on the pipe, so. You need to go to an area where it stays at a higher elevation so you can keep running it.
Because you don't want to
To the
go
west.
down with it.
Well, you want to limit,
Understand. I
because
don't know, I don't
it
put it
flows
there.
by gravity, so you have to have slope on the pipe the whole
Okay.
time, so you can't have back
Dips
slope
and
on it.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're big for, yeah.
We don't want that.
Okay, so would the 2.5 we'd expect to add to the trunk? Or was the 1.8 already part of another?
We insert that into the trunk calculation, so
Okay.
Northland Security, so Tammy and Jess would recalculate that trunk fee before the council would consider it with the 2025 fee schedule.
Okay, is it 1.8 plus 2.5 or
Correct.
2. Okay.
And 1.8 was in there originally?
Correct.
Okay, and we have to add 2
Wait a minute.
million.
1.8 plus 2.5?
Correct.
Not
Okay.
or 2.5.
Yeah, after that's nice.
Yeah, I thought it was
Okay.
4.
Yeah. Yeah.
1.8 is just to physically get across
through the
212.
road. Okay.
Just to get across 212 is
Sure.
$1.8 million.
Okay.
And then getting
Wow.
the rest of the way up to Levi Griffin Road is an additional $2.5 million.
Are we able to have them pay for part of it, or do we, I mean, you just said we can't have them pay for all of it, but are they paying for part of it?
Well, as you can see in the green, the sewer is already to the property, and so they would just be required, somebody who was the next in line would be required to bring it to the edge of their property. This is, how big is this line, Erin?
30-inch.
This is a 30-inch line, so this isn't a service line. So you can't ask the developer everything. I would say that, I couldn't find a path to justify it to them, like, hey, you gotta bring this 30-inch pipe, where do you already have sewer at the other end of your property?
And with trunk fees, effectively, development will pay
Correct,
for that.
correct. They pay it, as we talked about, they pay it at the time of platting, so it comes in even before the building permit. So they'll, in essence, they'll pay some of it, it's just they won't pay the full boat.
Right.
Because if they had to bring, whatever, close to just over $4 million worth of sanitary sewer costs, I'm sure I'll be getting calls from Jerry Hartman saying, why am I having to pay for all of this when I already have it, so.
Could we,
Go ahead.
Okay, excuse me.
could we get a rough estimate of what it would be if it was a 10-inch pipe instead of 30?
You need the 36.
I understand that, but like the reason it's bigger is potential development, but typically we'd be asking the developer for a smaller total project. And I get that that's only one piece of the scope of the project, and if you're already digging, right size it. But, kind of, what if there was a scenario where, we only needed the, 10-inch, right? Sorry,
Yeah, the
speed, but
10-inch pipe is on the north side, and we can get you a price for that, but that wouldn't impact the pipe that goes north and south, because.
I don't know if I'm like explaining the scenario. Do you understand what I'm
I think
asking?
I know what you're saying. You're saying essentially what is the oversizing cost?
Yeah,
To
yes.
go from
Yeah.
an 8-inch
Like I don't
lateral
expect them
to
to
a
sponsor the
trunk
oversizing.
sewer. I
Yes.
think that's what you're asking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lori, that makes me, you didn't ask for my opinion, but that makes me nervous. I don't think we're in a position where we've ever second guessed the engineer, and that's a dig twice, pay twice
I'm not
scenario.
questioning the size, it's more the finance or like the scenario of just because you're developing in an area that has potential growth around it, would it cost them more versus you're developing kind of at a dead end?
To what end? What will you do with that information?
Kind of decide, is this Trump fee worthy or is this, just a traditional or?
Maybe this would help too, so they'll still have to bring that 10-inch line from where you see it ending at the end of Levi Griffin,
Okay.
all the way to the end of their
Into
property.
Okay.
So they all have that 10-inch line cost. We're just not asking them to pay another 10-inch or 36-inch line
Okay.
cost on the other side of their property that they frankly don't need. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
But we can get you a cost per
Yeah.
foot. Do you know that offhand?
It's probably gonna be just off the cuff. It's a small fraction of that 30-inch. It's probably like honestly
Okay,
like 10%
because
of
like,
the
yes, I
cost.
get from a scope of a project, we're
Probably.
already digging,
So,
and we're,
yeah,
we really want to right size things,
yeah.
but,
Is that 10%? Does that get you there, or do you?
I'm not, there isn't a number that I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'd be comfortable with. This is all brand new, so it's
Yep.
just more of a.
Yep.
And is it 30 or 36?
The 10-inch pipe is about 10% of the cost of a 30-inch.
No, oh. So is the expansion for 30 or 36?
30-inch.
Okay.
30-inch, yeah, sorry.
Are we sure that 30 is the right size for the whole rest? I mean.
That's of course the
So like-
full,
so that I-
full
Okay.
for the
Yeah.
comp plan.
That's okay, okay.
That's what I trust, or I look to
Yeah.
you and your team for that expertise.
This seems exactly like what we have the trunk service fee, right? I mean, this almost is identical to the same problem we have on the southeast side, right? We don't have service, and it's unreasonable to have a single developer pay for a giant extension for
And you don't, we're not
Oh, yeah.
asking you to make the decision tonight, we're just telling you that you'll see this
Yep.
in the final draft. And so it's a little preview of just like a ad that, and then you'll see the numbers and see
Yep.
how it all shakes out.
Okay.
Sounds good. Any more questions? That was it?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. City council requests, any?
No.
Not seeing any.
Oh, we're just
Sorry,
starting
I asked Erin to do a construction update.
Oh,
Okay.
fantastic.
Do you need the dongle?
Well, while you were
No, I just haven't.
hooking up,
So.
we decided we don't have any council requests, so go ahead, Erin.
Okay, so I just want to update you on a few construction projects. Number one, Lions Park, that got paved last week. So fencing is planned to be installed next week. And then the acrylic surfacing, that has to wait at least 30 days. So that would be towards the end of September is when that would plan to go down. So that's that will wrap that one up pretty much here by the end of the month.
Thinking that people will be pickleballing October 1st?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So, 3rd Street Bridge, I know everyone's anxious about that one, so I think we have a path forward. The contractor will be starting again on Monday after Steamboat Days. So they're gonna be doing the helical pile test. So basically they need to install test piles first just to confirm that they get the service loads out of the piling that we specify in the design. So that'll take about a week just to get through that process. And then they can move to actual production piling in the following week, assuming everything goes good on the test piling, so.
Erin, they won't be able to get on the Harvey side of the bridge until probably mid-morning. They're coming to take the tent down on Monday morning. So they can
Oh,
get through to
okay.
the other side, but the Harvey side, that tent will still be there. They're coming fairly early in the morning, as long as they are on schedule, so.
Okay. So I can let them know that, start your day getting set up on the other side.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Then the last one is on the street project. So unfortunately, I have a 1-day delay on the paving. So the side streets for the overlay are all gonna get paved on Thursday. Then we told the contractor no working on Friday because of the Steamboat Days Festival. So then they'll be coming back next week to do the 4th Street wear course on that. And then we'll wait a couple weeks and then we'll do the final striping out there. And then that'll take care of the street project, so that's what I have.
So on the piling, was there a negligible cost difference between that and the pounded plates, or were we able to get the state to cover the?
So there's no, the state of Minnesota isn't gonna pick up any additional costs. We're still waiting on final price adjustments from the contractor. But speaking with them in general terms, it doesn't sound like there's probably gonna be a net increase based on the type of the pile
Good.
that we're gonna be able to use, so I'm hoping it's gonna be a net wash. That's the goal, so we'll see. But yeah, that's the
Okay,
update on the
good.
cost.
And thanks for your communication on that timing, because I've had many people ask me questions.
Oh.
Nothing is happening down there, so.
Yeah.
So having
Yeah.
the information to say, vibration monitors, we're doing this now, is
Mhm.
perfect. And they're like, oh, great, got it.
Yeah.
Vibration monitors, fantastic. Water tower?
Oh, water tower, yeah. So they're almost done with the coatings. I think we should see the logo going up here pretty soon. I don't know if it started yet. I haven't been up there today, but Brent and I met last week. We spotted the logo. It's going to be very similar to what the council saw in the original drawings, so we're good to go there. We're open within about 2 weeks. We'll be able to fill the water tower again. So after they get the last coat on, then they can start filling the tower. It has to sit for 7 days and cure out the paint before they can put any water in it, so. But it's coming along well. They're doing a good job, so.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see, moving on, 2024 general fund budget. I'm sorry, 2020. It says, oh, sorry, on my packet it said 2024. But let's talk about 2025 instead, Lynn. How does that sound?
Great, Mayor, thank you. All right, so here we are today, we're reviewing the second draft of the general fund budget. So what changed? We updated the staffing to adjust to the positions that were actually hired. If you recall, we hired 3 new public services positions, 2 in the utilities and 1 in the general public services. So assuming I'm hoping they'll be here in 25. I know that they will be because this is the best place to work. So I adjusted those positions as well as the health insurance to reflect those. And then also added a position for a kind of a training chief position for the fire department. And so I added that in there as well. And then I decreased the future capital contribution by $50,000, and that has to do with the 3rd Street Bridge. We're hoping to use some of our bond premium, I believe, to contribute toward our required contribution for that. So, and if you remember, there's some updates to the 3rd Street Bridge that won't be covered by the funds that we receive for that bridge. So the total decrease was about $16,700. So that decreased the preliminary levy from 12.61% down to 12.23%. So that's just a summary of what changed, and then I'll continue to go through. Does anybody have any questions before I start to review? No? Okay. All right, so we've seen this slide before. This is just summarizing the 12.23% side by side with the draft 1 as well as the 2024 general levy. So you can see that the overall general levy changed. I adjusted the debt service just a little bit because Tammy Amdahl was here Jess was here, excuse me, last time, and we now have actual numbers for the bond, and so I adjusted that payment as well. So here are some options for overview and scenarios for decreasing the levy even more. So the options are on the side, and the scenario with the reduction also reflects the impact to the levy, and that in turn shows how much the average value of home would be affected. Brent, did you want to speak to this at all?
Yeah, it's a lot like what you saw in the initial memo that we put out for you at the last meeting. So the baseline is that 2024 final levy. That doesn't mean that everything that was in last year's levy is things that you'd support this year, but that's the baseline. And then really kind of separating those into buckets. So the new lieutenant's position, or that prorated position, is at $17,000. The adjustments from the baseline is about 12% of that levy increase. That capital investment came down by $50,000, so that's the 3rd Street contribution coming off, but it's still parks, it's capital equipment and fire. Street maintenance levy follows that our payment management plan, and then that new bond payment, and then finally in the current draft, or draft 2, is the full milestone implementation for the employee pay for performance program. The milestone +1 that we showed in the last memo, that's about a $50,000 decrease if you chose that implementation strategy. So just wanted to kind of give you some broad strokes about how different things could impact not only the overall levy, but the impact from a tax perspective to the average value home, just to kind of get conversation going.
If we're gonna take the new lieutenant out, does that get us down into the 11% range, down below the 12%?
I've been told that not to do math on the fly.
Probably by you.
Yeah, by me.
But we could try to figure that out.
When we get into conversation a little bit, I can actually pull up the budget and plug that in, and I can get you that answer.
Okay.
Yeah, 17 grand, okay.
And just to be clear, we were at about 124, 129 in the first draft, right?
Yeah.
Now we're down sub-100 to 89 fully funded.
And one of the pieces to that, so it's a combination of 2 things. One, the reduction of that 16,000, but 2, the state legislature changed the threshold for the market value exclusion from 400,000 around up to like 500,000. So that puts in our average valued home in a place where it can get that market value exclusion or essentially basically a break on their property
Yep.
taxes. And so the combination of those two things is what you're seeing now from that 124 down to the 89.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll show examples of that as well. So what Brent just explained, we'll talk a little bit more about that market value exclusion. It's actually really good news for a lot of homes here in Carver. So the revenues changed a little bit, as you can see. Not going to spend a lot of time on that. The parks capital contribution, the only thing that changed here is we reduced the general capital contribution by that $50,000. Employee pay and benefits, we juggled a little bit here because of the staff that we hired, the actual hires. We didn't hire the general mechanic like we had planned in 2024. We're moving that to the July 1, 2025 hire. So that's what I was referring to when I said I plugged in the actual hires. So now you can see the impact down below. It's a $28,000 addition to the public service budget for 25, and then an increase in general fund wages of $152,000. Here's the expenses. I added 24 budget to 25 so you can see a visual of the differences between each of the categories. And here's that new number for the debt service. Draft 1 I had 140,288 and now I have the actual amount of 141,977. And again, you're levying 105% of the actual payment due. Street maintenance, nothing changed here. We're planning to levy 520,000, which is 100,000 more than last year. And it looks like we're doing a reclaim of Sunny Ridge and mill and overlay of Ramsey, just streets south of Ramsey Avenue, and seal coating Ironwood Drive and Ironwood Park. Here's a visual of the general fund levy history. You can see the different buckets that we're levying, general, debt service, and street maintenance. So here's what I want to just talk about a little bit to Eric's point before, how we decrease so much from our impact to the average valued home. So for 2024, the exclusion stopped for homes that were valued at $413,800. So that's a lot of properties here in Carver because our average valued home last year was $428,000. But now for 2025, the exclusion goes all the way up to 500 properties with a value of $517,200. And then that exclusion was increased to $38,000 instead of $30,000. So this is great news. I did an example of the calculation down below just so you can see how it's done. And this is all comes from Minnesota Department of Revenue, property taxes. And here's an example. So last year, this home, our average value home got no homestead exclusion. This year, the market value is getting reduced by $7,500. So it's actually less, the taxable market value, even though the market value increased to $433,000, it's actually less than it was last year. Which helps because then your taxable market value is decreasing. So even though our tax rate increased to 42.19%, the tax impact is not as great because you have that homestead exclusion. So it's a 5.25 increase from 2024. And that's where you're seeing that $89 rather than that 100 that I have in there, 128 prior. So super exciting, I love it. So these are actual homes. We can speak offline if you want the actual addresses of the, like our general areas of these homes. So these values I pulled for 2024 and the 2025, their value 2025 proposed valuations. As you can see, some of them didn't change. Home number 7, their property value didn't change. And then as well as home number 4. And some of them went down. home number 2.
And how come they're going up? Like, help me out, because home 5 and 6, when I was looking at this, that range, I know you're not the county assessor either, but, that bracket is kind of getting more than their share,
Yep.
seems by this graph, so.
And so that all has to do with the calculation, and so I can show it to you. If you remember last year, there was no exclusion for homes over 413,000, and now it goes all the way up to 517,000.
Right, I'm just having a hard time understanding, but like, cause we've got one here, home 6 looks like it went down in market value, but yet their taxes are going up, and I don't understand how that correlates.
The tax rate
Tax
goes up.
rate.
Tax rate.
Yep,
Our tax rate is going up because the levy's going up.
yep.
And these are just specific homes, it's not every
No.
house that's $576,000 will
Right.
increase to 576.
Right.
These are
Right.
snapshots.
Yep.
And there's a ton of variables. I mean, essentially you're asking for more, or theoretically, at least on the table, you're talking about asking for more money. Somebody's gonna pay it, whether it's a home that's at a certain value, or a commercial property, or an industrial property. So every situation is different, and so we can give you these examples, but you're still likely to see someone come in on Truth and Taxation Night having a very specific example, like, and something that we faced the last couple of years are folks that were taxed just on their land in a new home, and then after like a year or two, they get land and building, and then their taxes go up exponentially, so. I'll stop there.
So when the county gave us the tax capacity, did that already have the homestead exclusion built into it for, right, does that affect
The capacity is figured first.
first?
Yeah.
Okay. And then each individual home gets the exclusion,
Yep.
so that it, like you said, it slightly shifts it to homes.
Or no, let me think about that. The capacity they find out that they get the value, the taxable value, and then they compute the tax capacity based on it. And then that's how they make sure they get the same amount.
So I'm presenting this a little differently for you so that you can see what it would be, a monthly bill would be for city services compared to 2024 monthly services. So it looks like here, this individual would be paying $7.94 more per month for this bill for debt, parks maintenance, fire protection, finance, communications, building inspections, all of the different services that are offered here at the city level. So in 2024, the average valued home paid $141.81 per month for the city services, and proposed for 2025, the way I'm presenting it tonight, they would pay $149.75. So that's a 5.25% increase. So I just have a couple questions. Just how would you like the preliminary levy presented at the September 16th meeting, which would be to adopt the preliminary levy and budget. That is the highest that we will set it. And then would you like any other work session with different scenarios that I can present for you? And then I can answer any questions. Brent also is here to answer questions. We've been working closely on this budget for the last many weeks, so happy to help.
Great, thank you. I can start. I think this looks great. It looks like this has gone down. This is 70%. At $89 a month on average price home, it looks like it is 70% of what we talked about 2 weeks ago. That's less than, that's $7.42 a month. I'm good with this budget how it is. Because this is the not to exceed number. I think we can always whittle something away, but quite frankly, I've been doing this long enough that it's not unheard of that a surprise pops up in October or November or even early December, and I wanna be able to have a little bit of cushion so that we can bob and weave and not get too much heartburn over what happened, you know, so. I think that this is good. This includes everything that we have talked about, from the employee pay for performance plan to fully funding all of our things that we wanted to and that we've grown over the years. So, Lori, thoughts?
I do, you just mentioned the employee pay for performance. Is that spread out under the ones that are slide number 17 out of 54? Like when we look at whether it be, is it like general government operations, or is it building expansion planning, or is it?
Yep.
I have a feeling it's.
And it's spread out, it's prorated even from there, so
Okay.
there's a bucket of general funds, but based on the position, there could be more in water, and sanitary sewer, so like the utility finance technician or the utility superintendent is gonna have more in the enterprise funds than Nick Jorgensen in building inspections, where
Okay.
it's 100% essentially.
That explains it, and that's helpful because what I want to be prepared to answer is if somebody says, you know, oh, this is in the budget, you increased this, and, you know, now I'm paying, you know, an extra, you know, what dollar amount to, you know, any amount.
Mhm.
But to know that it's, yeah, that's not the case. You can't just, that doesn't correlate to just one of these line items.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Correct.
Got it.
Let's see. Sorry, just taking half a step back. I don't think I did a good job of it either, but I don't think we're answering the question.
Yeah.
So, do I want another work session with different scenarios? No, I'm good where we're at.
Okay.
How about your answer to that
I'm
question?
good where we're at.
And then I think we can all talk about number one once we've gone around the table, because I don't know that I have anything. Christie?
I'm fine with not having another work session on this. I will piggyback up what you started with. I am good setting this as the preliminary, knowing that we can come down. There are certainly a few things that I want to look at and talk about later, but I agree definitely with the fact that if there is an unknown that comes up, we've left ourselves a little wiggle room that we can pull back on if we need to later as we get closer to the end of the year. So I'm good with where we're at for right now.
Well, just general comment. I had jumped in after this point last year, so now you see how hard
Does
it
it
is.
feel real now?
Yeah, you did all the hard work. I was like, oh, it's already down 100,000. I didn't. So it's really a lot different when you're trying to make those decisions. But as Eric I think mentioned, and you know, as the top not to exceed, just absolutely comfortable with this number. And then Lynn and Brent, thank you for getting those detailed questions on the employee performance things. Looking through that, I am heavily leaning against the milestone +1, just because when you looked at the actual individuals, it doesn't actually solve the problem, right? It doesn't bring up our least paid people to where they need to be, right? Because we have people that are 3 or 4 steps below their milestones. So, I mean, I think if we implement, we have to do the full one. So I'm fully on board for that. And then if we have to find savings, then we'll just have to find something else we can whittle away at on that one. We don't think I need another work session. And what was the number one question? How do we want to present it? Yeah, I think this looks good. I think another thing to highlight, at least when I went through it again, was I don't know how we can print it, but our debt levy's increasing, where previously in the last 2 years that was actually decreasing, right? So we were getting the benefit of not having issued debt, so then our spending, right, in terms of operations was kind of getting, not hidden, but you know, as we saved $100,000 on debt, that, you know, $100,000 increase in city operations was basically canceled out. Where now, in this case, we have an increase in the debt, but we didn't really increase the city operations much, right, if we looked at that percentage. So I think that's a good thing to highlight, is it's not, you know, you know, the city's doing a good job of trying to keep our spending flat, right? It's just capital improvement for future, I don't know. It's a different way to
understand
look
what
at
you're
it,
saying.
right? So, my thoughts.
Thank you. Last but not least, Erin.
All right, so thank you for all of the hard work on this. I was really happy to see what it came down to. So no future work sessions. I think we're good where we at. We're setting it at the highest point. You asked how you want it presented. I really like, you know, the September 16 meeting, time around what you're getting for your dollars. I think that really helps people understand where the dollars are going and justification and what that looks like. So we'll spend time on that slide. That's it for me.
Yeah, I don't know that I answered number one, but I agree with Eric, like the stuff, especially like highlighting the stuff that people love. Maybe what we pay for sheriff's coverage for steamboat days, Carver cleanup day is a huge one. Just, you know, the stuff that folks enjoy and look forward to would be the only piggybacking that I have off of your comment. Any other thoughts for?
I do have something else, and I forgot to about it would be, I think, nice to highlight, like the Carver cleanup days. And to that, like, this is planned now, you know, and it's put in the budget, and it comes up way later. On that same tone of like things that we plan for in advance. So the council salaries, and I was trying to find, but I feel like it's 2 years ago. But just for, and I guess I want people's thoughts too, just on transparency, I want it communicated that like this was discussed, you know, whether that be almost 2 years ago. And, you know, I remember too, we talked about how long it had been since there was an increase. I just don't want it to be like, oh, we're just kind of sliding this under because there's, you know, in the budget, the council salaries from a line item go from.
I think we went for 18 years without a
Right.
raise, and then
But
it was
just
what,
to
4
have-
years ago?
just to have that,
Why
you know.
5 now?
No, it was probably,
It
it
is.
was when we first started, so it was 8 years
It
ago.
was, well, because I feel like it came up once and you were just on a council and you voted no. And then
I voted no, but it passed.
But it passed, okay.
We had a couple of years though of getting paid per meeting still, so maybe 6 years.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah, I was trying to like find when it was, but I'd rather be transparent about that because I think that was well thought out. You know, it was, you know, discussed quite a while ago, it's in the budget, I just don't want it to be like, oh, you know.
I don't
I don't want a
disagree with
resident
you
to be
on
like, oh, I didn't know about this, because I didn't, you know, read the meeting minutes, you know, and.
And I don't disagree with
Or
you on
what?
that, and I know it's not what you're saying, but
Yeah.
everything we do is very transparent.
Good
And we
point.
did mention
Yes.
that, you know, I think it was, we were doing a rundown at that point, but I know that
Yeah.
I share the meeting note, the
Yeah.
meeting agendas, you know, like, just to be really clear that we did not do
Yeah.
that deal in the back alley.
Yeah, yes.
Do we want to put the transit for Prime and stuff in there? Because we want to
Yes,
talk
Yeah.
about
I think
that.
it's eye-opening to see
Yeah.
what we invest.
I'll mention all of those things kind of in the
Okay.
expense outline, yeah.
And then maybe when you're presenting, spend a little more time on some of the calculations, because those are, for anyone who's watching, those are, I mean, they're the hardest part of the budget to
It's
understand,
kind of
right?
interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, you want to call it interesting, I have another name for it, but that's cool. But no, if you want to just maybe spend a little more time on that, because if anyone is watching, that's probably the hardest thing to really focus through on here, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the slide where you had that one's missing, right, where we had I can't think of the number, tax capacity, right? Where how much we have an increase from new development, right? Because we still had a pretty sizable, right, I think that's
One from the county.
yeah, it's showing that hey, there's still development, we're still getting a benefit of, you know, budget, you know, increase from new development. That's materially impacting our ability to support services, right?
Sure. Great, a few council members said it, but I did not. I know you guys have both worked really hard on this. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. Really well done. I'm pretty happy with where we're sitting right now. All right, next up is Cannabis Regulation Authority discussion. Mr. Mareck.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is, there's a memo in your packet, also attached a memo from Carver County, as you know, the state has created an Office of Cannabis Management that's gonna be looking at licensing cannabis businesses throughout the state. There is a local registration component to that, similar to how we license tobacco and liquor in the community. We do liquor on our own. Tobacco is done through Carver County. There's some pros and cons to that. One of the biggest pieces, and I had some help with the city attorney on this, is, as you know, the local registrations are limited to 1 per 12,500 residents. But if the city council chooses to transfer that authority to the county, we lose that Carver population and we become part of the bigger Carver County population. And so, just in talking to county staff, we can have up to 10 local registrations for a business in the community, or cannabis business in the community. And I know Erin Smith and Dave are working on zoning regulations and buffers related to that. Ultimately, it puts the idea, at least an editorial opinion of mine, of transferring that authority to the county kind of on thin ice when you think about having a strong concentration of 10 cannabis businesses in the community. The county attorney's office is working on maybe some special language that maybe is a workaround for that, but they don't seem very optimistic. Ultimately, it's a new kind of process for the city clerk's office, or Vicky, with support from our team. So if there was a way that we could transfer it, I think we'd be apt to do that, just because this is not something that we specialize in. Anything I'm missing, Dave, that you want to point out to the council?
Just a couple clarifications. So this is just related to retailers. There are a handful of different cannabis-related businesses, cultivation, manufacturing, testing facilities. This doesn't relate to that. The registration component and the ability to limit businesses in your community is just related to retailers. So to Brent's point, as a community with less than 12,500 residents, if we retain the registration authority, we would have the ability to limit the amount of retailers to 1 in your community, or in the community. Which, I guess, the good news about, yes, it would be a little new for Vicky and her team and just city staff in navigating what would be, I think, an administrative learning curve. You'd only have 1. So you wouldn't have to be doing this for many. If the council wanted to limit to 1, I mean, that would also be a council decision. So that's one important thing. The other thing, and Brent and I talked a little bit about this, I know there's still discussions with the county and the sheriff's office. If you do handle registration as a city, you're obligated under the new laws to do the compliance checks, which they're no different from tobacco and liquor compliance checks. You send someone in that's underage to try to purchase, just to make sure the businesses are checking IDs and selling to people that they should sell to and not selling to people they shouldn't sell to. The county has been sending maybe some mixed signals on whether they're willing to do that, regardless of whether we retain registration authority for us. However, the statute does provide that those compliance checks need to be performed or supervised either by law enforcement or a member of city staff. I know that would be something a little more complicated than city staff has normally handled, so we're hoping they're willing to.
I talked to Sheriff Cameroon, and I'm confident that they understand that their obligation, and that we just might have to specify that action item, I guess, in our law enforcement contract with the sheriff's office.
Dave, in here it says we can limit licenses to 1 per 12,500?
Registration, yeah.
Must we?
No.
Okay.
No,
So
that's,
I was gonna say,
I-
1 feels a little low, but like, 1 feels a little high, but we're not.
I caught, yeah, I didn't
I
comment.
didn't get
I didn't.
No, I didn't. I'm gonna work towards it now.
Good is blushing.
No, you don't have to, you can limit it, to that
So
sort
I
of
don't wanna get
number.
too far into the weeds here. That was
There you go.
intentional.
And I caught myself before saying, if you choose to limit it, you could go down to 1, all the way down to 1.
Okay.
Just because you have obviously less than
Okay.
12.5. And I think what the county intends to do is limit it to, so interestingly, let's just say that I think the total amount in the county would be at 10 or 11, because it's about, 112,000 people.
So that hasn't changed.
Well, so what I was gonna say is if those 11 popped up in other communities, you as a city could theoretically say, the county's at its limit, we're not gonna issue any more registrations, because there's plenty of opportunities for people to go find cannabis now in Carver County, and we don't necessarily want to have another business in our city unless and until that number drops below 11, in which case someone could theoretically then come and locate a
But
business.
flip
in
side,
Carver.
we have the right then to say, well, Carver County might be full, but because we retain local
Mhm.
control, we're gonna let the
Go up to
second one in.
12 or 13, yep, the county can't necessarily tell us, we're at a county cap, so you can't allow any more. It's all about the registration piece, and, the other thing to clarify too is we're not licensing these businesses, that's all done at the state level. The registration is really a piece for local governments to retain some level of control over the retail, and it's not a ton of control, because we can't tell people how to operate, that's all gonna be subject to state rules and requirements. The licensing all happens at the state level. But in order to get your local registration, you just have to pay your fee. You have to confirm that you're locating your business consistent with city zoning. And another good, we included this in the memo, another good, in my opinion, reason to retain this authority as a city is because if you have a problem retailer, you can pull their registration and then they can't operate anymore. Whereas if the county, not to say the county wouldn't do that, if they were handling the registration, but you do retain some level of local control with enforcement. If there's a bad actor, you might be
So,
registering.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so the compliance checks were the thing that I noticed the most, because I thought, who are we now, not, we as a collective, we're sitting here like, yeah, just by hair, yep. Is gonna, who are we gonna send in to do this? I would prefer that we are not the keeper of the compliance checks, and again, it says it has to have a
Sheriff Cameron
Sheriff,
verified that they'll do it, and
Okay.
if you look at number 4, at some point we'll get some tax revenue, not property tax, but some type of tax associated with the product, and that would, I am assuming would be more than likely to offset any additional costs we have from the sheriff's office. That's what, frankly,
Sure.
it's intended to do.
And for me, I would rather, I'll just say right away, I would rather keep this as a local control for us in the city, period. I don't have any other discussion on it, that's just where I'm at.
I agree.
I was gonna say, we've talked about local control in the context of the state legislature. I feel the same way about local control here. I'm confident that our staff can do it. I'm confident that we can partner with the county for the compliance checks. I don't see any reason to farm this out. Is that fun?
Yeah, you're on a roll.
I'm trying now.
Yeah, like a rainbow, everyone's kind of, it makes you listen though, like, for certain words.
Sorry, bonus points if you can get.
Cannabis fund.
I share the same direction, or direction that I would give. I do have one question. Are there other consumer industries that at the retail level that have, the state does the same type of thing? I know wouldn't be liquor stores.
Well, the state does issue some kind of unique liquor licenses, like consumption and display permits are issued only if the city approves it, then they have to get issued by the state.
Okay.
So they oversee some of that stuff, but this is new, and I think the state wanted to, clearly they want to be a lot more involved in it, I think because of not only that it's new, but they expected a lot of differing opinions, community to community, and to me this is good because, and in fact, they actually changed the law recently. What was going to happen is if you handled registration locally, you were also going to have to go in and test products to make sure that there's a potency they're saying they are, do all kinds. That has now gone to the state. The only thing local registration requires now as a city or county is the compliance checks for age. So a lot of cities at first, until very recently, were saying, we can't handle this, we have to enter into some kind of an agreement with a third party, and they're gonna have to be testing and done, and that's all gone away. But to answer your question, I don't.
Gambling is a little like that. would you say?
Gambling, yeah, that's true, the gambling
Okay.
permits are issued at the state level, but after municipal consent, so,
Okay.
yeah, that's a good one.
I think we all jointly agree.
Oh, there.
Yeah,
See,
nice.
I tried harder not to.
Save us from ourselves. Okay. Are you clear in our direction for that? Okay. All right, I think we are done. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Frisch.
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Rathke. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. It was really painful.